Okay, fantastic. Here we are. Welcome, Warrior Sage family, Warrior Sage friends and family. I have a special guest here today, Annmarie Chereso. And Annmarie is a new colleague of mine in an organization called Sensi, where we're creating and have an amazing app which can detect stresses inside your being and then directs you to appropriate protocols to transform consciousness and to relieve stress. And so that's how we connected. And immediately there was this um, real kinship of intention, of heart. And I was very impressed knowing more about you. And we had this wonderful share. And I said, look, I wanted to share who you are, your gifts to our community. So thank you for being here today, Annmarie.
Thank you for having me. My heart is just wide open knowing you and knowing that I get to be a collaborator in the universe with you. So thank you for inviting me on your journey.
Wonderful. So let's hear a little bit about who you are, your background, so all our friends can have a sense of what moves you and what you're involved with.
Mm. What moves me? That's such a great question. So um, the answer to that question is, consciousness, awareness, awakening on the planet, human potential, all those things sort of move me and propel me forward. I'm a coach, and I've been working in the world of mindfulness, consciousness, meditation, spirituality, self-awareness, for the past almost 2 decades now. So I've really enjoyed that work, as I've opened up myself to these tools of awareness, these tools of consciousness. My life has expanded so much. So it became my life's purpose to bring those tools to others in ways that could help serve them in expanding their selves and their consciousness and their contributions to the world, right? So how can we contribute in the most expansive way possible? And then what I found was I just feel so excited and so impassioned around supporting the next generation of leaders as they're sort of unfolding and evolving and figuring themselves out. So much of my work right now is focused on young people, young new leaders, empowering them and freeing them with the tools that they need to be self-aware and self-empowered in their lives so that they can go out and contribute in really beautiful ways in the world.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Children are very close, of course, to both of us. We have our own kids, now young adults.
Young adults.
What do you see is, give me a sense of what age ranges you work with.
Well, back in the day, about 10 years ago, I started working even on the preschool level where I was going into schools and working with young ones, 3 and 4-year-olds. And that was such fun. And I loved it. And what I loved about it so much was, they didn't need my help at all. They were already fully awakened. It reminded me that we just get in the way as adults. So I worked in elementary school and high school for a long time. And then I started to awaken to, as my children grew, I have young adults in the home now. And I realized that the sweet spot of working with young adults is really fun and interesting to me as they're in this deep place of inquiry, trying to figure out who they are. There's a lot of angst, as a young adult, as you know, because you have 2 beautiful young adults in your life. So I felt really drawn to supporting them on their journey of awakening so that the angst, not to take the angst away, because that's very necessary in our evolution, but just to give some guideposts. It's sort of like, when you first learn to bowl and you have the bumpers on the side. So some bumpers and some tools for self-awareness and awakening. And to the extent that they're ready and available, they can use those tools to make their journey just a little bit more clear. And I also tend to work often with parents, and because we're co-voyaging with one another in this process. So the more that we as parents can get out of the way of our young adults' process, just the speedier things are.
From your work with youth, what do you see are the biggest challenges they're experiencing, inner challenges in life?
Hmm. It's funny, I just got off a call this afternoon with a young man who's 2 years out of college. And I think what he's going through is like, what is my purpose in life? What is the purpose of living at all? So I think when they're facing those questions, like, well, I just spent most of my life doing what culture told me I was supposed to do: go to school, get a really good degree so that I could get a job so I could be happy. I did all that, and now here I am sitting here, and I'm not feeling all the things I was told I was supposed to be feeling. Something is missing, and what is it? And I think what's happened is we've robbed our young people of their ability to learn to trust their own knowing,
Yeah.
because all along we've been telling them this is the formula, this is the way. And all of their resistance is met with, there's a problem with you, so we're going to give you a pill, or we're going to fix you because there's a problem with you, because you're resisting this very linear path that really doesn't align with your soul, with your spirit. So anytime our young people are resisting, we think there's something wrong with them. So rather than the adults in their life going, let's get curious about that resistance. What is the resistance here to teach us as adults in the world? I joke with a friend of mine because she and I talk about how our kids, there's this whole thing right now where young adults are having the Peter Pan syndrome, or not growing up or adulting yet.
Yes.
And I said, well, if I were them, I wouldn't either, because we don't make it look very fun. We don't make it look great over here on the adult side of things. No,
Yeah,
that's not
it's
true.
like you have to give up. If I'm looking back, I would have to give up fun, joy, spontaneity for some type of very contrived, stiff, less playful or not playful life, right? That's what it
Yeah,
feels like.
lots of obligation, lots of
Obligation, heaviness, right?
yes, yes.
So how do what do you share with them? What do you share with youth about? I want to know, like, get into the nitty gritty. What are you actually telling them, sharing with them? How do you help them move into some sense of I have value and purpose in life and meaning?
Yes. Um, well, first, um, I think the most important thing that we talk about is this idea of self-acceptance. That if you're in a moment of angst, or you're feeling anxious, or you're feeling fear, or whatever is occurring, can you bring just a breath of acceptance to that moment? Can you just allow it without judging it? You and I both know we are living in a time, particularly politically here in the US, um, where there's so much divisiveness and so much judgment in the culture. There's good and bad and right and wrong, and everyone's always trying to prove the good versus the bad, or the right versus the wrong. And so that lives in all of us, and our young people in particular sort of battle with any time there's dis-ease in the system, that something is wrong. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is when there's resistance, it's often it's purposeful. Resistance is purposeful. But we have developed a relationship to resistance that it's bad. And so I'm asking young people to open themselves up to seeing these things as neither good nor bad, but just neutral, to just get curious. What is occurring and how is it for me? So being in this place of acceptance of what is, this one student I was working with, well, not a student, this one graduate I was working with today, having a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of questions around purpose. And in his story up in here, because we're so good at making up stories, his story is, there's something wrong with me. And I said, well, what if there was something right with you? What if all this angst was absolutely perfect for you? So really like loosening up these ideas that when I'm in a place of discomfort or dis-ease, that means there's a problem. And acceptance, I think, is the key to that.
That's beautiful. It gives our youth the opportunity to really feel inward and not aim to have some type of negative self-judgment, because that's so crushing.
It's
Already
crushing.
in the youthful culture, let alone adult culture, the idea of being accepted and loved and appreciated and found cool and with amongst our peers and peership is valuable, especially during this time. And with so much of, as you said, resistance, not feeling accepted, not feeling self-love or who I am or what I am, that's a very essential piece. And what you shared there about getting curious, it touched me because there's two sides of it. You first said it's as a parent, because when I'm triggered or, when my children are doing things that are like this, I can give all types of good advice to other people and insight and such. But candidly for myself, because they're so upfront and close, I have a hard time getting curious. It's like I just
Yeah.
want them to get the shit done, clean your stuff,
Yes.
do that, get on with life, and to slow down and to say, okay, what is that resistance they're experiencing? First, I got to get curious as a parent so that they can feel that if I'm curious and I'm not coming in with heavy judgment, which is my default, but I come in from this deeper place of being and acceptance, I can see how that can change the whole dynamic.
Yes. And can I
Yeah.
say something about that for
Yes,
a moment?
please.
Because sometimes this gets confused. And I'm speaking to us as adults
Yeah.
in relationship to one another. So this can apply at work, this can apply at home in our interpersonal relationships, this can apply in our parenting. But often we don't accept ourselves for our own fears. So, like you just said, you can advise lots of other people, but when it comes to your own children, sometimes it's harder. So, I want to even give us as adults in the world permission to accept ourselves when we're in those triggered and reactive places and not try and change that. So one of the things I've been practicing as a parent, and I practice in my relationship with my husband, is when I'm afraid, which happens all the time, and you and I will talk about this framework that I help us to recognize a fear. When I'm afraid, I just let myself be afraid, and I accept myself, and I go to my kids and say, I'm noticing that I'm afraid right now, and I want to control you because I don't like what's occurring. I'm afraid, and here's all the things that my fear is telling me, and I just want you to know me. I want you to know me in all that I am in the world. I am all of this. And and from that fear, I am choosing to limit something in you. You know, right now I have something going on with my 16-year-old daughter. I am limiting something from fear. I am fully aware that it's from fear, not from trust. And that's just the choice I'm making. That's just the choice I'm making from a place of parent. Something came up with my husband earlier this week, and I too had that same sort of contracted state, right? We can recognize fear when we're contracted. So when I get into that place of judging my own fear or my own experience, then again, I'm not in a place of accepting myself for my own humanity. And I think that's the single most important thing we could be doing is just let ourselves be human.
When you share that, my body drops. It's like, that's really the essential start of the heart opening is of the
Yes,
self and others.
yes.
Acceptance of what is good, bad, ugly, up, down, volatile, gentle, the whole spectrum.
It's just what is.
You know, there's a lot of criticism, criticalness around millennials, younger people, but at a certain age, in the sense that they have lots of insight and knowledge. Some complaints I've gotten, I've experienced it myself as a pattern. I try not to lock myself in the pattern and give an overview that all millennials are like this, but there are certain, if you will, things that have been shared, such as not enough work ethic, not willing to follow through or go to the end of things and complete them. Staying
Mm-hmm.
more in the head, very smart, extremely intelligent, great insight, but perhaps not as humble in life experiences as they can be. I'd love you to share about that. You know, what's going on with the millennials? How can we support them? How can they support themselves to shore up, to be more, I guess, I don't even know if the word doer, but more contributors to society, stronger contributors.
Yeah. I love this because this is such an exploration for me. You know, I have a 21-year-old, 20, almost 22-year-old son, and I wake up every day with the stories like, get out and do something already. You know, like, what are you doing with your life? Um, so, and I have a bunch of nephews and nieces who are in their late 20s, early 30s, and I catch myself often in judgment. Like, what are you doing to contribute to society? What are you doing is the question I'm asking a lot.
Yes.
And um, what I see is they're having a whole hell of a lot of fun. They're happy. They're enjoying their lives. Um, they may or may not be contributing to society. But even as I hear myself say that, the thought that comes up is, what is the best way we can actually all contribute to the collective? And I say the best way to contribute to the collective is being of sound mind and heart, being happy, fulfilled human beings, not creating drama out in the world, having whole and full relationships. All of that, you know, if we all just tended to our own little seed on the plot of the planet Earth and just bloomed as beautiful and as big as we wanted, we are contributing to beauty on the planet. So I think part of our work as adults in the world is really to get clean about our stories about what millennials should or shouldn't be doing. You
Mm.
know, our judgments about how they should or shouldn't be contributing, our judgments about um, how much more they should or shouldn't be working. When I look at them, I have all those thoughts and beliefs, so I'm right there with you. And then right behind it, I see, what are they here to teach me? What are they here to what am I, because, you know, in life there's always a polarity, right? There's, with generations we swing, with the pendulum swings really far left and then really far right. So if we see a whole generation doing something differently, then what's going on? Like, I want to get curious about that. And it makes me wonder, am I the one doing it wrong? Do I have the wrong idea? Now, I don't know, but at least I'm asking that question. And what I see is um, they're valuing play more than I ever did at that age. They're valuing relationship and connection with their peers and the people that are important to them. Um, they're valuing community. So they're valuing that more than they're valuing money.
Wow.
So I'm just paying attention.
We're part of this whole evolutionary arc that's happening now that I feel is quickening for us as adults, as youth, children, all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
This is a very, very powerful point that you brought up of getting curious, but also checking out, are our values entrenched in something in the past that we're trying to project or force onto this current generation, that aspects of our values might not be as valid today with what's happening. You know, with COVID and all this, I think people more and more and more are starting to experience the value of connection, recognizing after being fasted from connection, the value of that. So I'm seeing my children, I have a 23 and a 21-year-old, I'm seeing they're becoming more discerning of who they're with, who they hang out with. But at the same time, they're wanting genuine relationships, genuine connection, over the superficial, just fun stuff. Fun's there, but I also feel that the discernment is growing of who is my true friend, who are my allies, who can I bond with that's healthy, who should I not continue to move with because it's not healthy. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's the gift of COVID for all of us, frankly. Our circles have had to have gotten much smaller, or they've gotten much smaller, and it's really gifted us the opportunity to focus, like who is our tight community, who do we want to give our energy, time, and love to.
Beautiful. I think we can all ask that of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we last had a chat, you shared this wonderful model of above the line, below the line, and it's still going through me, and I'm able to see things with more clarity and artfulness. I'd love you to share that with our warrior sages and how they can use that, how they can apply
Sure.
that.
So I've been studying consciousness for many, many years, and mindfulness, and I came across this framework from some friends of mine that were my coaches and my mentors, and it really just landed and resonated. And like many seekers out in the world, we study lots of texts and teachings, and what I have found over the years is they're all sort of saying the same thing, right? There's love and there's fear. That's it. And mindfulness is the path to, awakening yourself to love and all that beautiful, beautiful stuff. But it always felt rather obtuse. So when I was introduced to this framework, which I think originated, if I'm correct, with Joseph Campbell's work, he uses this simple line. It's just a line going across the center of a page or surface, and it helps you discern if you're either in one of two places. So in any given moment as human beings, we find ourselves either above the line, which would represent a place of trust, or below the line, which represents fear. Now, we're never on the line. We're either above or below. So when we're above the line, we're in an open, curious state of mind. When we're below the line, we're closed and we're defensive. When we're above the line, we're, what did I say? Open, curious. Oh, when we're above the line, we're committed to learning and growing. When we're below the line, we're committed to being right. We're sort of righteous and tight. So it's really just like this idea of playing in the land of presence. And from presence, there's all sorts of learning available to me. And if I can be truly in a place of presence, I can be with my below the line state or my above the line state, from clarity. So this model has just been so simple because it's a simple line. I'm either above the line in trust or I'm below the line in fear. And one quick shortcut to catch myself is if I'm feeling super open, super light, my heart is open, my breath is moving well, life is feeling easeful, no judgment, I'm definitely above the line and in a state of trust. If I'm feeling even just a tiny bit of contraction, a tiny bit of judgment, a tiny bit of fear, then I'm below the line in fear. And the game isn't, should I be above the line or below the line? The game is, can I have done enough presence to properly recognize where I am in any given moment?
Wow, it's the awakeness of where I'm sitting, where I'm standing in. What do you do? So what do you do when you notice you start putting this line up on the wall? I have it in my office and I recognize, okay, I'm starting to contract. I'm getting reactive with people in business or whatever like this, or I'm getting reactive with my wife or reactive with my teenagers, reactive with myself. Please share with us some insight into that.
Yeah, so this is great. So first, we ask ourselves, where am I? So I use 4 questions. Where am I? Let me just get myself located. All right, so I notice I'm a little triggered and reactive right now. Beautiful. This is the human condition. We are hardwired to go below the line. We're meant
Wow.
to.
Wow. Okay.
We're
That's
hardwired,
huge.
right? We are hardwired to go blind because we are hardwired to protect ourselves when we feel a threat.
Yes.
So our job is to protect ourselves. Now, the difference is we're not living back in caveman days, so we're not protecting ourselves from a saber-toothed tiger coming around the bush. Our ego has gotten a little inflated, and so we create fears that are imagined, which create us as going below the line and feeling like we're in a threatened state. So first things first is I ask myself, where am I? I notice I'm constricted, I'm tight, I'm below the line, I'm defensive, I'm critical, I'm doing my human thing, I'm being human. Great. Second question, can I accept myself? Goes back to acceptance. Can I just drop in and accept myself for feeling threatened and afraid? Can I just accept myself for being a human? Because that's just what's occurring right now. So to try and change that is really just a control move from below the line.
Yes.
So being in this deep state of acceptance and allowing ourselves to stay below the line for as long as we need to, so that the nervous system can relax, so the brain can become open and more available, and we can go back into a state of trust. But also there's this trusting the resistance, trusting the fear, trusting the threatened one, that one too is our ally. We don't have to make being below the line bad or wrong.
A source of insight,
Yes.
source of power, source of capacity.
It can be. If we're aware of it, see, the trick is self-awareness. So we can give it too much power, then it takes over if we're not aware, if we're letting that energy push us through. But if we're aware and then we let that energy be there as much as it needs to, and we get curious and learn from it, then it could be a source, a beautiful source for us. But we have to let it be there. See, what we often do is we get down below the line into that threatened state, and we're so triggered, and we get so defended, and we're just not thinking clearly. And then we just get caught up in what I call drama. So should I
Yes.
talk a little bit about the drama?
Please, yes.
So when we get down below the line, we're in the state of fear, beautiful human. We're going to do something to try and survive, right? Like imagine we're drowning in a pool and we're just kicking and, paddling and trying to keep our head above water. What happens there is we go into one of 3 roles. Now, Stephen Cartman, back in the 70s, I think it was, developed something called the drama triangle. And he identified in human psychology, when people are in a state of fear, they play one of 3 roles. They go either into a victim role, and a victim believes it's hard, or I have to, or I'm at the effect of whatever's occurring. Or they go into a villain role. The villain loves to blame themselves or others, or they believe someone's wrong. Or the third and final role is the hero role. And the hero is always seeking temporary relief. So the hero believes, I can handle it all, or poor you, or I can help. So all of these roles are perfectly designed in the human psychology to bring us some sense of control when we're feeling threatened or we're feeling in that threatened state.
Understood. Wow. Okay, tell us about the next step. So the first step is, where am I? Getting a sense of where you're located in this above or below. You shared with us a drama cycle that kicks in somewhere when we're below, and we're either operating more in victim state or villain state or hero state.
Yep.
Even I didn't understand that hero could also be underneath the line as well.
It totally is.
Can
Nobody
you,
likes to get that.
can you share
We
more
all
about
love,
that?
yeah, well, we all love to hero. Let's take our kids, for example, because they're so easy. You know, our kids, let's see, they forget their homework, and mom or dad, you know, wants to help and bring them their homework, or they're having difficulty with someone, and um, you know, yeah. So let's just stick with that homework example for a moment. So we we can handle it. We'll help you. We'll bring your homework to school for you. We'll take care of it. Well, sure, that and you feel so good as a parent because you've been working so hard and you've been so busy, and it's the least I could do, and yada yada yada. Well, we bring temporary relief to ourselves because we don't understand that we're actually below the line, feeling guilt and shame around not parenting effectively or well or enough. So we go do this thing for our children or our child when we're not actually, in fact, seeing how we're enabling some pattern in them. Now, it might be a pattern of, gee, I don't get enough of mom and dad's attention, so I'm going to keep forgetting my homework because that's the only way I seem to get their attention. Now I'm creating inauthentic, codependent relationship patterns. And mom and dad are enforcing that. And I'm going to go out in the world now as an adult and believe that's the way I create connection with people, by becoming a victim so someone saves and rescues me. You'll see it in, you know, anyone out there, you'll see it in your own personal relationships. You do it as adults. You keep doing the things you did with your parents in your adult relationships, at work, and in your personal, interpersonal, you know, relationships. So heroes are actually very dangerous. They create lots of codependence. I've done it a million times. I do it. Yeah, I do it all the time.
As you're saying it, I'm just like, my face is going, wow, I'm getting a reckoning going here. Because it is that feeling of, did I do the right thing? And I must in some valiant way correct what was not done earlier, or catch up for this time here and there. And that just creates more neurotic dynamics and
Yep.
reinforces it. Yeah, I'm getting
And
that.
we do it all the time, and we do it from such places of love, just such places of love. So back to acceptance, that second question, you know, I caught myself heroing my kid or my husband or my business partner. There I go again. Now can I get curious? What is going on over in here that needs to be nurtured or attended to? Is there some guilt going on over here? Is there some shame? What negative energy is driving my hero behavior? So again, this is always just an opportunity for awakening and looking more closely. How is this behavior serving my ego? How is the behavior serving my ego? Now, I want to say that there are lots of times I am super aware of these patterns. I'm aware when I'm below the line. You can't not be aware. Once you become aware, like you said, since you and I spoke, you know, like you just now know.
Yes.
I want to just emphasize here that I give myself permission to hero sometimes. So sometimes it's all I've got. It's sometimes I still hero my kids or my husband or my best friend or my business partner. And but the important thing is I own it.
You're
You know,
conscious of it. And
and I
therefore,
own
it's
it
not
both.
coming from below the line or from the old dynamics. It's coming from resourceful intention and clarity.
Right. It's coming from like, all right, I'm afraid, I'm below the line, I'm heroing, and I don't feel like doing anything different right now. And I'm just going to accept the truth of that. And the important thing is what I do is I just bring it to everyone's attention.
Yes.
So I'll say to my, 19-year-old son, sure, I'll give you $25. I just want you to know that I'm wildly aware I'm enabling our codependent pattern around money. And I'm just feeling unavailable to do anything different right now, and I'm just going to be okay with that.
I'm going to transcribe that line and send it to my kids. They're going to have a laugh around that.
Yeah.
So
And
it's really
sometimes we
as
just have to
easing.
laugh.
It's as easing. This is the way it is. This is the dynamic I'm aware of. I'm supporting you right now, but I want you to know it's in the context of this reality. You know, I think if I approached my kids that way, they would giggle and laugh, and they would actually start to denature the very dynamic that's unhealthy just by the as-ising of it.
It's true. Well, my coach Diana, she's beautiful, wonderful, brilliant coach, and she's brilliant at play and laughter and fun. And she reminds me of, like, let's not take everything so seriously. Like, really, it doesn't have to be that serious. So that laughter in and of itself, like, yep, here I am. I'm just codependent here with money again, around enabling my kids, and I guess I'm just going to keep doing that thing. But the more we can laugh, the more we can play, the more we can relax around our humanity. It's like we're just being human.
Yes. Thank you. Please share more about the next questions that you ask.
Okay. So I got through 1 and 2. The third
So what was
question
number
is,
2? Number 1 is where am I? Number 2 is,
can I accept myself? Right. So let's stop there for a second.
yes.
Often when we play this game and we start describing above the line and below the line, a lot of people are like, oh, well, above the line is way better. I want to do that. And so there's a lot of right there judgment. Here comes the judgment. I want to be above the line. That sounds way better up there. Well, now I imagine it sounds better. And in my experience, being above the line, there's a lot of ease and flow and joy up there. And I like it too. But if we cannot accept the isness of the moment, there is no possibility for shifting. So acceptance is key. We have to accept ourselves when we're below the line. We just do. In my experience, in my personal experience, in all my coaching experience, no shift occurs in a place of resistance. It's just not possible. So once we get into that deep place of acceptance, we ask ourselves the next question, which is, am I willing to shift?
Mm.
So now the question is not, am I willing to shift my behavior? Because that's a topical treatment. It's more, am I willing to shift the consciousness from which I'm being with what's occurring?
Say that part again.
Am I willing to shift the consciousness or the constriction around the way I'm being with what's occurring?
Okay. Thank you.
So when we're below the line, we're in a constricted state. We have some fear, and we're believing some thought that we're threatened, whatever that is. We don't know what that is. So from that constricted state, I can't actually move and breathe and open to creativity. So the question is, am I willing to change the constricted state of the limited belief state of mind that I'm in and open my mind to possibilities? Now, in order to do that, you need to do a little investigating and figure out, where am I constricted? There's lots of places I could be constricted. I can be constricted around believing my story is true. I can be constricted around not wanting to take responsibility for how I create these circumstances over and over in my life. Be constricted around not wanting to be vulnerable with my emotions. So what am I protecting, right? So when I'm below the line, I'm threatened and I'm protecting something. So what is my ego protecting? So if we can get curious about that and figure that out, then we can go be with that one over there.
Yes.
And say, okay, I got you. But like, let me help relax you a little bit. What are you protecting over there?
Beautiful.
And it's some vulnerability that, you get to dig and explore and figure out.
And you can say, I'm not willing to shift right now, and accept that your heels are dug in, or you're going to hang out in this place without some type of premature pushing yourself out or premature positivity or some type of affirmation reframe, but it doesn't really drop in deep because there's not really a true willingness at that moment.
Yep, you got it. Absolutely. And that's what so many people do. And this is the tough part of working with young people and older people is the positive psychology movement. It has come in and swept the nation. And it's like, well, just reframe that negative thought to a positive thought. Well, that's all fine and good if you drop in deep and you're actually reframing it on a cellular level. If you're just reframing it in your head, but not with all centers of intelligence in the body, it's a hero move.
Ah, okay.
It provides temporary relief just in the moment. So you hear a lot of people go, well, it is what it is. Just is what it is. That's a hero move. Like, well, it's a disempowered statement. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it.
The words sound conscious, spiritual, awakened, but it's not arising from the true embrace of the self-acceptance and your willingness or lack of willingness to shift.
Yeah, and it's so okay not to be willing to shift. It is so okay. And it took me so long to get that because I really wanted to be a shifter. I wanted to be like living in the land of presence and trust all the time.
This, what you just shared, can be such a profound relief to being.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, what's next?
So the last question is, how will I shift? And that question is really the most empowering, right? Because here's where you get choice. So once you figure out where it is you're most stuck, you know, whether it be, for me, I often get stuck around vulnerability, around like expressing deep sadness or heartbreak. It's a place I don't like to go to very often. So often that's the place where I'm like, oh, here we go again, knocking on that door one more time. Am I willing to let my heart break and share my heartbreak and be vulnerable and open to my husband or my children or whomever it is? There's all sorts of places that we get stuck. Am I willing to take 100% responsibility for how I co-create my kids as codependent around money, right? Am I willing to look at the parts of me that are afraid that they'll be disappointed or they'll have a difficult experience or they might suffer in some way? Am I willing to take responsibility for those parts of me who I hero by making sure they never feel disappointment or struggle? Am I willing to get curious about how this, you know, is for me or for them? Or am I willing to explore the opposite of all my stories that I make up? Or am I willing to explore how the opposite is just as true or truer? So there's all sorts of ways we can go look at how I'm creating myself as threatened. And if I have the courage, am I willing to shift by changing my consciousness, by changing the stories that I've made up that have caused my behaviors, and then taking the actions to follow up with them such that I'm creating now a new paradigm? Einstein says you cannot change things from the consciousness which it's created. This is exactly what we're talking about.
Beautiful. So right now, a lot of people are dealing with all types of stresses right now. Yeah. Parents, youth, everyone, all types of stresses. Where can we start? Where can someone start right now?
That's such a good question. Well,
with the overwhelm that's going on politically, environmentally, work, business, life, COVID, it's endless.
Everything.
Right? It's like coming.
So here's what's coming. I've never thought of this before, but start with stopping. So I like that. That just came to me.
I love with that. I love that.
Start by stopping. So we are huge human doers. We're constantly in this like doing mode. And I know that the past few weeks for me, I've had to really take long pauses and stop, so I can get clear. And I think one of the things that the gifts of COVID has been, everything stopped for for a for a chunk of time. We all were forced to really stop and literally go inward.
Yes.
Now, whoever used that, to actually go inward or not, I don't know. But that was the gift of COVID. So I think
Yes.
you start by stopping and then accepting,
Yes.
just
Beautiful.
accepting this is the way it is. And maybe if we didn't resist it so much, we'd get our learnings just a little bit sooner and the shifts can start to occur. But as you can see, and as I can see out in the world, there's so much resistance. We're fighting this so hard that we're just causing more and more drama out in the world and in our own lives because we have so much resistance to what COVID's here to teach us.
Annmarie, this has been so rich, your shares today. For me personally, very pragmatic and real that I can apply today. What you shared about where am I? Can I accept myself? Am I willing to shift? How will I shift? And this distinction of victim, villain, and hero. I can see myself playing out the hero quite often, like you were sharing. And perhaps some of our friends and family can find where they are within this spectrum and bring that light of presence and awareness and not beat yourself up, but to accept with humor these dynamics that are imprinted from who knows when, how long ago.
Yeah.
But the richness of the presence is the undoing of that patterning, the beginning into a fresh wholeness of being. So thank you so much. Before we complete today, what's in your heart to share? Our warrior sages here are leaders in the world. They're all up to doing good things. They're all up to making positive impact. What's in your heart to share to us, please?
The first thing that comes up is thank you so much for inviting me to participate and share with you. That was really fun for me. And I have such gratitude and admiration for your presence and your way of being and your availability. So yeah, you feel very open and available to me. So thank you for that. Your presence was very calming to me. So I have a lot of gratitude for that. What else is on my heart? Really what's on my heart lately, and I've sort of said this a lot in our time together, is this acceptance. I know that this is a very divisive time in the United States in particular, politically. That like the past 6 or 8 months have been so much constriction and so much divisiveness and not enough love and acceptance and trust. And so I guess what's on my heart is, can we all take a breath of acceptance and open ourselves up and become just a little softer and more curious with these days as we reimagine a new way of being on this planet together. So that's what I'm sort of excited about and standing for, and hoping we can all open ourselves up to co-creating together.
Oh, thank you for your contribution to the world, to our youth, to our awakening, to our health of being. All my love and gratitude.
And to you. Thank you.
All my love and gratitude to all of you warrior sages. There's so much rich insight in this. I recommend please go through this again and up level our presence. The world needs us to be really at our core, to be on our full game of awareness now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you.